Welcome
back
to the TAE Time Podcast.
How's everyone? Hope you all doing well. I hope you're doing good.
Yeah.
It was Friday yesterday. It is now Saturday. Like for you guys, not fair.
You just burped
I didn't.
in the
Sorry.
microphone.
Maybe I did actually. Sorry.
Not that I didn't straight away.
No, I didn't think it picked it up because I didn't really burp like that. But yeah, I was having a nice little yogurty snack.
He needs to be burped like a baby.
I'm going to the gym after this. A nice little 25 grams of protein yogurty snack from Dunn Stores.
Shout out to Graham's.
No shout out to them.
Shout out to Graham's.
No shout out. Get them to pay me.
Guys, they were doing a sale. And it was like, what, 3 for $4?
3 for €4.
And now it's back to normal price. Like, what? You can't go back. Like, that needs to be the forever price now.
Forever price.
Like, you can increase the price of the 3 for $4.
€1.25 per each one.
Yeah, which is ridiculous.
No, which is a pretty good deal. I'm stupid. Sorry. Wait, no, am I? No, I'm not.
I think they're €2 something. No?
Stupid.
Guys, anyway, guys.
That was terrible. No. We can't go over that. That was terrible math, guys. Because that was so bad. Sorry. I'll never do that again.
Have you been?
Not too bad.
What have you been up to?
I haven't been up to much besides playing Wukong and chilling. As you can tell, I look like a bum. I've been quite busy in my own personal life.
Yes, stress.
I actually haven't. I'm not stressed at all. But I haven't done anything really. Like, as in, I haven't played much games. That's what I was gonna say. It's only in the this week, I started playing video games again. I've been busy with other stuff, work-wise. So I've just been doing that, and that's why I look like a hobo, like a bum.
You look great, sweetie.
I'll need to get a trim soon, and we thank God for that. And but besides that, really honestly, guys, my life's been boring. How about you?
Mine has been so eventful.
Look at you.
It hasn't. I actually hurt my lower back. Somehow, some way, I feel like I have a little something in my lower back.
It's a strain.
A little strain, whatever.
A little strain.
And
she's about to say slip disc. You don't have a slip disc. You would be able
they call it a bulge, actually.
No.
Of course you're able to walk. Are you crazy?
No, it would be every time. Like, one of my friends had a slip disc, remember?
But
he literally couldn't do anything.
Okay,
for so
but
many
that's
months.
your friend. Because this girl that I follow on Instagram, a fitness influencer, she had it and she was still working out, and then she went and then she was told that she had a slip disc, and she was like, the guy was like, my pain threshold must be so high because I didn't really feel it that bad.
Nah, because the severity of how much it slipped is what matters.
But that's the thing.
Yeah.
So I don't think mine's extreme, but I definitely do.
I think you have a strain in your back.
I don't know, because I'm telling you what it feels like and you're not believing me. Is it because I'm a woman?
No, I believe you. But also at the same time I also know you. And I feel like if you had even a slight slip disc, I feel like you would feel a lot more. I feel like, because I know what it's like to feel like it's a slip disc. Because remember, I had it too, where I had like a really bad strain in my lower spine and it was affecting my legs.
You probably had a little slip disc.
It wasn't, but no, because I had my scans and everything, and I found out it wasn't a slip disc, but it was a severe strain near the spine.
Anyway, it's in my lower back, guys, and so I've been doing little exercises, and I'm gonna stay away from the gym for a little bit, aka like a week or something, maybe less.
That's fair. You actually meant to stay away from the gym for way longer.
I know, but I can't.
You can. There's nothing stopping you. You just
I don't want
not to.
Yeah. The other thing is my favorite show has started recently.
Oh yes.
What's it called?
Asia Express.
Why'd you call it Asia?
Because that's how you guys
pronounce it.
Asia Express.
Asia Express started, guys, and it's it's my favorite show in the whole entire world. It's basically these like Romanian celebrities that are sent to Asian countries, hence Asia. Or America Express, because they did it in South America before. I think they did 2 seasons or something, and now they're in Thailand, Malaysia, and some other country I don't remember, and they basically have to do like all these challenges and activities, and they have to like ask people to sleep at their homes and all this kind of stuff,
because they're not allowed to use money.
They don't have money, they don't have phones, there's nothing, so they just have to rely on people's kindness to help them, and a map. Well, they don't get a map, no.
But I've seen them holding a map before.
So sometimes they're given a location to go to, and sometimes they're just told a location, and someone just has to bring them there.
Okay.
They have no idea. So it's very interesting, and
it looks
I
like
love
an
it.
interesting watch.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
I love it.
I just don't understand Romanian.
I wish you could watch it again. And on the topic of shows, that's kind of like what drove today's topic.
Yes.
Which is?
You should introduce it. You should introduce the show.
You want me to?
Yes.
Okay, so Ferg and I have started watching The Handmaid's Tale. And if you don't know, it's like a dystopian world based on
Our world.
a book.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was like,
Yes,
yeah.
but it's based on a book where fertile women are used as concubines.
In
Described.
America, which is
In
now
America.
called Gilead.
I thought that's just part of it.
No, America is now Gilead, and then the Americans have run away to the U.S.
To escape to Canada.
Yeah, I mean to Canada. I don't know to Canada, and they formed their own little, like it's still Canada, but they have their own little running of the
Allegiance.
U.S. In Canada. But America itself as a whole has become Gilead. They're like not America, like the continent, as like North America,
US
as in
of
like
A.
the US of A,
Yes.
is now called Gilead.
Gilead, yes.
Yeah.
And it's a very interesting story. I think for the longest time I didn't really know what to make of it. I wanted to watch it, but when I kept seeing it, I was like, what horror movie is this? It's not a horror movie, guys. It's a series. And we're kind of taken through the experience of one main character named June.
Who's a handmaid.
Who's a handmaid, and we'll get into what that is. Farouk will explain what that is in 1 second. And basically we just see her life, and she was taken away from her family. So she had a partner and a child, and her child was also taken away from her, and that's because she was a fertile woman, and because fertility rates have significantly decreased across the world, and so obviously
for the US of A, their solution was Gilead. Well, not like the US of A, but like a group of people with a lot of power created Gilead.
Yes.
In response to this problem,
fertility
issue where the handmaids are fertile women who essentially become concubines. But the whole thing's very religious, so like they're not allowed to see each other naked, stuff like that. It's literally like the mistress, who's the person's actual wife, because there's different tiers you find out as you go through, but the highest tier is like the commanders, who are essentially the leads of their state.
And that's who we meet as well.
Yeah, for example, like the leads of Boston, the leads of Washington, the leads of California, so on and so forth. Those like the heads, like this, like those politicians, but they're called commanders instead. They're not called politicians. And then their wives are called mistresses, who wear all blue, because these guys always wear suits, and they wear all blue, like fancy whatever, whether a dress or like a suity type thing. They have to wear that. They initiate this thing called the ceremony, because they read this religious text. It's I can't remember. I think it's the New Testament or the Old Testament, one of the two. I can't remember which one it is. They read the book, and then obviously it's exchanged. There's stuff that's changed in it and stuff like that, but.
Very Amish culture.
No, I wouldn't even akin it to any religion, because I've looked it up and it's like very different. Like it's kind of made for the show kind of thing.
Oh,
so
fair enough.
Yeah, so like it is whatever.
They're definitely inspired
by whatever.
Some of the outfits and.
Yeah, well, but either way, it's like they have the mistresses, the wives, and then the handmaids, which all wear all red, to signify them, to stand out. They're fertile, and essentially the ceremony is like, they do a little prayer, and then essentially they go to the room, and the wife holds the hands of the handmaid, and the commander goes and inseminates her, through natural means. So, and then they do that.
Trigger warning, by the way.
Yeah, do that once a month. What's it called?
Fertile period.
During her fertile period, to try to have a child, and if she gets a child, that baby becomes the child of the mistress. And
the mistress is also preparing as if to give birth and stuff.
Yeah.
Even though the mistresses cannot have children.
Yeah, so like some mistresses can have children. Like we have found, that it's not really a spoiler, but you find out like later on that some mistresses can have children, so they don't need a handmaid, you know, and they have that. So like the handmaid is for mistresses who can't have children. You know, not every mistress has a handmaid, but they have like Marthas, which are people who live in the house and stuff like that. Like it all really depends or whatever. Either way, if your mistress is not fertile, you need a handmaid. You have a child, you keep the child, she moves on to the next house, and they keep R wording her all the way. I don't know if we can just say the word because it's a podcast, or
I don't know. I'd rather not.
Yeah, I'd rather not say that.
It's a little triggering.
Yeah, so they keep R wording her throughout each house all the way to, you know, get child
non-consensual.
Yeah, non-consensual intercourse. And so like they just keep bringing that bam, 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 bam going through. So it's pretty messed up, obviously. And then you have like people who live together and whatever, and they are not related to that whole system. These are just regular people, but obviously they live under the system, so they have to follow the system and stuff like that. But they get to have like a wife and a child, and because if you can't marry someone of the opposite sex because you're seen as a gender traitor, you know, so like, you know, it has to be heterosexual.
Again, very religious.
Yeah, exactly.
Beliefs.
Only heterosexual marriages exist, and it's a unit, the nuclear family unit, essentially, you know, and that's the main thing, and that's what they're going for. So that's the basis you need to understand for what's going on.
Yeah.
Anyway.
What are your thoughts about how somebody becomes a handmaid?
As in, like, just because
the ones that are chosen to become a handmaid.
So the ones that are chosen to become a handmaid is because they've done something. So it's not enough to just be a fertile woman to become a handmaid. You have to have done something. And so the idea is like whether you committed adultery, which is in the case of June, because
she cheated.
Her now husband cheated on his wife with her. You know. And left his wife for her. So that what makes you become a handmaid. Like, if you're fertile, you don't automatically become a handmaid. That's not how it works. You just end up being a normal, regular person. But if you have committed, quote unquote, a sin, and you are fertile,
such as being
an adulteress
gay,
or being a gender traitor, quote unquote, as they say.
You
know, it's such a stupid. But the reason I'm using the term is because it's so annoying, and they purposely use that term all the time. You know, and stuff like that. So like, if you do all those things and you're fertile, handmaid. That's the only way to be a handmaid. You're not a handmaid just because you're fertile. If you're fertile and you are quote unquote free of sin, you haven't done any of those things, you get to be just a regular person. And there's a lot of people who are regular living. Like, we find out later on down that like there's only very few handmaids. Majority of the world is just wearing gray, being regular, whether they're Martha or like a whatever man that works wherever. They're all regular people.
And they were given like the right, I guess, to live with their children and, you know, their partner, whatever, because it was a right way of creating a family. So they were forgiven. So once again, to my question, what's your opinion about like how the handmaids are chosen?
Yeah, it's fucked.
Yeah.
Like, there's no two ways. I just wanted to explain how, because I realized I didn't explain. Like, because it gives the wrong impression thinking handmaids aren't just fertile women. It's fertile women who have been done sins. And it's fucked, obviously, because adulteress, like, just because they're like gay, just because they whatever else in the past life of whatever, is just putting them inside that bracket and then making them be succumb to like this thing, I guess, is like some kind of penance for whatever sin they've done. It's stupid. It's so stupid.
What a flawed system.
Super flawed system. What do you think?
Yeah, obviously I agree. You see the girls being dragged into this shared space.
The Red Center.
Yes, shared space, Red Center.
Yeah.
That's what they call it. And then they have Aunt Lydia. We're introduced to Aunt Lydia, who is, I guess, like a higher up.
Yeah, so those are called like the aunts. They train the handmaids to keep them in line. Yeah,
they tell them what to expect and they'll all be assigned to a different home, who, you know, a family who can't have kids, and they'll basically have to go in and fulfill their duties. But it's the enforcement of the rules that is so crazy. Like, we see somebody who gets their eye taken out, we see someone who gets like beaten up. Like, it's a very violent show, and I think my first initial thoughts going into it, I didn't think it was going to be that violent. That's another thing that I was going to go on to about like initial thoughts of watching it. It was so different. I just didn't expect it to be like I guess, as graphic. Like, we see a lot of hung people very casually just, put on the wall, as they call it, hung on the wall because they did something bad or whatever. And I found it very, very graphic. So I think if you're someone who like struggles with that kind of imagery, just a heads up. Obviously, like you said, there's a lot of non-consensual intercourse. There's a lot of like abuse and stuff like that. But I think it's such an interesting concept for a show. What was your initial thoughts?
Yeah, no, like it's just like, it's very frustrating. It's like, how the hell, like, can we let something like that happen and get to that point and stuff like that, but like, you even see there's stuff that happens in the show that shows like even other countries kind of agree with it because of desperation, or just like how bad that's spoiler now, like it's trying to avoid spoilers a little bit,
whatever,
but
Canada.
Yeah, so essentially where the idea is like other countries that might agree somewhat to some degree, just due to the fact of like the birth rate is so bad and the human race is dying that they're like, and these people are having kids. So it's like, is it that terrible? And like, obviously, as we've learned, like obviously some degree of kids aren't related to the handmaid situation. It's just normal. But obviously the handmaid situation probably perceives a lot of kids due to the fact that you're just using them consistently, like that, year in, year out, have a child, pop it out, feed the child, next on. So it's like you did, the hopeful thing is that one child per commander, per household, per year, but obviously there's not that many commanders, like maybe like 20. So that's like 20 kids, but that's 20 kids that other nations aren't having or whatever. So the whole thing is very messed up, honestly. And then I think I was like, yeah, this situation in real life would be near impossible, because I feel like there'd be so much stop gates before that could even end up happening. Like,
really?
It's very dystopian.
How likely is it though?
I truly believe it's super unlikely. I think there's so much in the world, so many stop gates in the world before that could happen, especially because we've gotten to such a point further.
But I mean, okay, I think to say that and to have like countries like Afghanistan and women's rights being stripped away from them is like kind of contradictory.
But I mean in the sense of like in a big Western quote unquote nation, right? In the sense of like United States of America, like, for it to be so totalitarian like that, a lot would have to happen. And even before that, they make it seem in the show like that Gilead is such a force of power that the rest of the world cannot even like to sanction enough sanctions on them. Like, essentially they start putting sanctions on them, but they can't put enough sanctions on them to stop them from what they're doing, or military force or anything. They're making it seem as if we'd all stand around essentially like do nothing. Yeah, it's not realistic. Yeah, that part is not realistic at all. I think it's very unrealistic, right? Like, there's difference between like places in Afghanistan where like that stuff is happening and the Western powers are not interested in that country. They're not interested in helping. They do a lot of talk, and obviously there's this whole situation of like, it comes to a point of like, oh, they don't want war, right? Because you don't want to set off war, and there's valid points there, but at the same time it's like they really don't care that much. They care enough to talk about it, but not enough to action upon it, right? And let's be honest, like, whether you want to believe it, whether the severity at which you believe is different for each person, but the reason Afghanistan is in the way it is due to the fact of Western intervention. Whether whoever you want to blame it, whatever you want, to whatever degree you want to agree, whatever, like, you can argue about that, but there was some form of like Western intervention that's gotten it to the point at which it is, right? So that's what I'm saying, as in like, versus this situation is they willingly went to go do that, and no one
said anything.
No one, like, the only resistance was within America.
Yeah.
A little bit unlikely for me, honestly. Like, obviously, but once again, it's a show, it's a story. Like, like once again, like, when you think about real world politics and how things actually work, it is so much more difficult for these things to like flip like a switch like that. Like, even like, take for example in the show, like Guardians, essentially I've somehow been more military powered than the American military, which is the greatest military on earth. Somehow you convert it. It's either like, they never really explained it, but it's either like, as far as we are in, is like, it's either every military service, 95% of military personnel flipped to being a Guardian, or somehow a smaller percentage of the military destroyed the strongest military on earth. There's loopholes like that where it shows like it's like,
there's a lot of loopholes.
you know, like it shows like this is not possible in real life kind of thing, you know. But
I think like the not closest we'd get to or whatever, because obviously it's some people's realities, but like there's been a rise in the 4B movement. And what is the 4B movement?
The idea is to have no relationship whatsoever with men in
and that's
South
a
Korea.
women's
led movement,
led movement.
But that one is also different because it's like that one's literally just killing.
We're just talking about infertility and like women power and like birth rates and stuff like that. And I think like a wave of like, okay, it's not the same thing, we're just talking about something different, but the 4B movement has been like on a rise of like women, like you said, refusing to, you know, have children, to reproduce with men. So I think it's like interesting because we're seeing talks of that in the West as well from some women, like just being like, oh, like we should bring that here, like I never want to do that, I never want to be with a man. Like, what do you make of that?
Like once again, I think when it comes to the East, like those things, it doesn't really matter whether the 4B movement happened or not. Like South Korea and Japan already had the worst declining birth rates in the whole world, you know, pretty much nearly. Like Japan is a very massive aging population, and so is South Korea. Even before the 4B movement was even a thing, they were just not reproducing in the first place, right?
Do you think it would have been more visible here if there wasn't as much like immigration happening? Because I feel like in Japan, like they're not really allowing people to go in and making it a little bit more difficult. But do you think we would have seen that here if like, because Ireland was seeing a decrease in population? But that's because
people were leaving so much.
That too.
But people were still giving birth at a steady rate or even at an increased rate.
They never had an issue?
No, like most Western countries have never had an issue with consistent child. Like if anything, it just stabilized down to like I think it's like 1.7 child per household, you know, like something like that. It comes to.
They're used to like 13 families.
Like, no, really, that's more like way back when, not any time in recent history anyway. Like
that's not true.
Had massive, like, no, I'm talking
some people
about
that we know are part of,
I'm talking about in the West, like
some people that we know are part of.
Yes, but I'm saying like in the actual overall, in like Ireland's never had a big population, like as in after the famine, right? It's never had a big population. And then if you take the UK, France, Germany, USA, none of them ever had like massive producing families, like in any recent modern time. In modern times, like we have like it's come down to like an average to level out, you know, because of like wealth, economic power, all these things make a massive difference. And when it comes to birth rates, which is obviously I digress, but the point is like the Western nations have a consistent, whereas like the problem with the Eastern nations like Japan and South Korea is due to overwork. It's not that it's like they don't have time for relationships because they're so busy working
or kids
or whatever, you know, they're doing so much else that their focus went away from kids, right? And then
that's so sad.
And then you bring in the fact of like all the shit that Korean men are doing, so they're like, we already weren't even going on dates. Now I definitely don't want to go on dates with you because you guys are fucking annoying and disgusting.
I saw this like video of like, what is it? This school year has started and it's just like 2 kids going to school for whatever class.
Yeah, like,
and that was just so funny because it's like there are classes that are not being filled.
Yeah, but I don't know if like it's that bad yet. But I know like maybe in like the smaller towns and stuff. But in the cities, obviously, they still don't have an issue because like their birth rate is dropping down, but it's not at a dangerous level yet. Like even Japan, as bad as it is, it's not at the most dangerous level. It's just bad. It's like the pre-warning, like, oh, like we have to fix up before, oh shit, we're done, you know, kind of levels.
Yeah.
You know, like, and that's the thing. Because people are still having kids, but obviously it makes a massive difference. And like, I don't know about the Western nations. It'd be pretty interesting to see that come here. If like something like that, then we could see how much of an impact it actually has. Because as I said, like in the East, they already had declining birth rates.
Yeah. We
need to see it in a society that had a steady birth rate. You know, like somewhere like Germany, somewhere like UK, where like they already had steady birth rates of people. What does that look like?
But I think we are seeing a decline simply because we can't afford kids.
That's
a lot of us can't afford to live. So it's like, why would I bring a kid into this? You know what I mean?
Yeah, obviously. But you still have this massive increase of people who can't afford kids, but they still have kids, and they're having enough kids for the people who can't afford kids either.
Not really.
You know?
Like not
No,
really.
statistically, I'm pretty sure in the UK, not the UK, in the US, that so because of this whole like baby mama, baby daddy, and once again, that if you automatically assume black people there, you're racist. Just saying.
Real.
What's it called? This whole baby mama, baby daddy thing that our generation has started like doing.
Children outside of wedlock.
Children outside of wedlock, quote unquote, yeah. That people are just getting knocked up. It's happening very frequently. Like I saw, I think it was on Philip Frank that like teen birth rates and like young adult birth rate, it's super increased.
That's crazy. I wouldn't expect that.
Which completely makes up for the people our age who aren't having kids.
That's so crazy.
You know,
but how can they afford that?
They can't, but they're having those kids.
Who's taking
like
care
they're
of
either
these
going to the
kids?
system or the parents are taking care of it.
That's
like,
ridiculous.
you know, and that's what I'm saying. So it's like you have to remember, like we still have like because people are still having kids over here. That's why I said it would be interesting to see that movement here, because then it would really show how much of an impact it's actually having.
Yeah.
You know, because obviously it's a right movement because they're doing it because of as a way to like really voice their opinions, which is great, and I think more power to them. But they already had a declining birth rate. I'd like to see that happen here and see how much it actually affects society. You know, like birth rates. Because if you had because I said, like a lot of people are looking at them like, oh, is it really the 4B movement, or is it just we already had a bad birth rate kind of thing? Whereas here, it'd be like, if the politicians saw that birth was going down a lot, they'd be like, okay, maybe this 4B movement thing is a proper thing, and they'd have to actually put resources.
And we're so capitalistic here, they would instantly notice.
You know, yeah, exactly, because they would be like, oh, we need to put
we need
resources to make people.
We need kids who want iPads.
You know,
this can't be
stuff
happening.
like that. So I'd be interested to like see what the real numbers look like that.
Run the numbers.
You know, but yeah. It makes sense that the 4B movement does exist.
I think it's interesting, and I think I'm seeing so much discourse online about it. I just thought it'd be worth mentioning.
Yeah, I know. It's definitely one of those things. Like, what's your thoughts on it?
The 4B movement, I think, is great. I think whenever women decide to take power, and I think this kind of ties it back to the Handmaid's Tale, because something that I've said from the start, like, these women can just protest, and then what are you going to do, kill them all? You can't kill and that's fine, but then you just can't have any kids. You know what I mean?
Remember, we've now found out that they are willing to do it because they have a normal workforce that does produce children.
Yeah, no, and that's fine, but like kill them all and then try to struggle to get others for them specifically.
Oh yeah, as in like the commanders and the mistresses wouldn't be.
Yeah, and how many more sinner women are you gonna get?
Because they're not sitting anymore.
Yeah, they're not sitting anymore. Yeah. So it's just like this kind of like little thing that I saw there, and I feel like for me, every time like a woman has an opportunity to be in power, and we do, they should take it. They should
willing to put your life on the line.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you really think so? Like, you don't know until you know. Like,
that's true.
A lot of people chat saying that they're willing to put a life on the line, but when there's actually a gun to your face, and your life flashes before your eyes, that's when you really know.
That's true.
Where your salt is.
That's true. You know? But I think I like to chat big, so and I'm aware.
Because like life or death scenarios are actually so different. True. Like I've experienced in my life, and I was like, it makes you be like. Maybe that's not that nice, you know?
No, I think I would 100% not get out of line.
Girls, get out of line. Not me though.
Yeah, I know. But I think if it's like a choice, like I have freedom to choose, I like that. Like a woman who can choose the freedom without consequences from a man beating her up. Like
or something like that.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the choice. And coming back to the show, I guess, to wrap up this episode, what are your thoughts of it so far? What are your thoughts of the character so far?
I don't like June as a character right now. She was fine in the start, but
we're in season 3.
We're in season 4.
We're in season 4.
But she's made, like, once again, I fully understand the whole PTSD from everything that's going on and why she does what she does, but there's sometimes I feel like she makes a lot of selfish acts without thinking about the other people who are in the firing line. Like, I understand she's doing everything for good, and she has done good. Like, there's some really good things she ends up doing, but getting there are some innocent bodies I feel like don't need to be stepped upon for her to get to that point. And like there's a point that could be made of like, you can't get to a resolution without some blood being spilled, both on both sides, right? And I fully agree, but at the same time, maybe because I personally I'm just like looking at it, thinking of like the people who are dying for her and thinking like about them, their lives, their people. And I'm seeing that, and I'm just like, why aren't you seeing that? Because it doesn't seem like she's thinking. Like, she feels bad, don't get me wrong, but she does. It doesn't feel like in the.
It doesn't feel like she feels bad.
It doesn't feel like in the moment she's even thinking about them, and that's the problem. I'm like, you're not like, you are so singly focused on what you want to do that you're lying bodies, good bodies. Forget about the bad bodies. You're creating a line of good bodies in your wake.
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion of June.
I think I agree. June is definitely not a very likable character for me personally, and it has made it from season 3 onwards very difficult to enjoy watching the show because she's like so centered, like center of the show. Whereas I feel like in season 1 and 2 we've seen some side stories happening, and we're not getting as much of that anymore. Like we're seeing,
but it is her story. Like,
I know it's her story, but in season 1 and season 2, we were seeing a bit more of others and how they were, even if it was through her lens or whatever, things were developing. Whereas I feel like now it's just been so June focused, and she's so selfish. Like, she's so selfish, and even more so, I hate the fact that the 3 people that died were all black, and I found that very strange. I found that very strange choice because it could have been anything, but why all 3? You know, and they're the very innocent people in the show.
Yeah.
And I think I saw somewhere online that said something like, "Oh, they tend to try to bring diversity into the show by side characters, but unfortunately the side characters die quickly."
Yeah.
Or like whatever, and that's why we're seeing that happen. I still think it's unfair. I think it's very unfair because this is a dystopian world where race literally shouldn't matter anyway, you know? Like,
yeah, but we also find out that it does matter though. We've heard situations of like, oh, people don't like this. Whatever,
yeah, people choose whatever.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, I think it's very difficult. I'm glad season 3 is over.
Yeah, season 3 is not a good season. Like, from what we even saw on Reddit, like, it looks like most people dropped it during season 3, and rightfully so. Because it actually is a boring season. I found it quite boring, honest. Like, Nicola didn't find it that boring. She didn't like it, but I found it boring.
I definitely enjoyed the storyline outside of, you know, just her. But there were some episodes that were like,
I just felt like everything outside of the last maybe 2 episodes were essentially a waste of time because like it literally added nothing to the story. And I thought about that as well when we were in season 4, and I was thinking about it today where like if I had only seen the last 2 episodes of season 3, that's all I would have needed to see, and I would like, because nothing else that happens prior really matters. Nothing else that happens prior, everything else is just boring fluff, like, you know. Like, there's maybe some key things that they rope in, like a sprinkle maybe in an episode here, but you could put that all in one episode, boom. And like, it was just a boring season personally for me.
I didn't find it boring, but I was very annoyed watching it at times. She became very unsufferable to me, and I think all the close-ups of her face don't help either. I don't know what the point of that is. It's giving horror movie. Like, why are we doing that? And they continue in season 4. So all in all, to say that I do recommend watching the show. I think it's great. I think the first 2 seasons are amazing. So if you want to just watch them and leave it, then that's up to you. Like, make your own ending in your head. But I think it's still a good show, and we found out that season 6 is still being recorded and it will be out. Hopefully
season 4 and 5 are better than whatever. I don't know. Me personally, I think the concept is interesting, and I like the idea of what it's conveying and making men have to think about actual like repercussions of their actions and where they stand in the world and stuff like that. But would I tell you go and watch the show with what I've already watched? I would say no, because I'm the type of person, like, when I start a show, I like to finish it, and knowing that there's a good bit of the show that I just don't enjoy, I just be like, yeah, just stay away from the show. And I tell you, and essentially I'd give you the synopsis. I think like a synopsis, like, is
I don't know. I don't agree.
Yeah.
I think
no, and
I would watch it.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
I think I would watch it. I think it's an enjoyable watch, and I know people who love it as well. One of my friends even suggested it, and she loves the show. So for me, it's like, I agree. Like, I think I would recommend it.
Yeah, no, I think the story,
especially if you're a woman. I think if you're a woman, it's
no. I think the story is important to be conveyed. I just don't like the way they ruin the pacing. And I'm a big I'm a big stickler for pacing. Like anyone who knows me, I hate shows that are not paced well, and so like the fact that season 3 was just horribly paced just ruins it for me. Like if a show like this is an exclusive to the Handmaid's Tale. If a show has like 4 good seasons and then 1 bad season, I'm like, fuck that show, because I hate horrible pacing. I hate horrible pacing so much.
Or storytelling.
You know, like I feel like it ruins the show for me.
Yeah.
Personally, it really ruins the show for me. So like that's a big thing. Like there's so many shows that I've really enjoyed, and then like the final season's like a terrible season. I'm like, I've wasted my time. I'm like, I would have rather not watched this. But
me with a book.
but yeah, that's just my opinion.
But yeah, that's what we had for you today. I really wanted to make an episode about The Handmaid's Tale, so it probably wasn't as interesting, but it was for me.
It was good, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I hope you guys
enjoyed it.
Like whether you read the book or watch the show, whatever you
Tell
decide,
us.
you know, or even watch a YouTube video that explains everything that happens in the show, because there's so many of those.
Show.
So
just watch the show.
You'd be surprised. There's actually been a lot of movies or shows I've seen those synopsis things, and it gives me the exact same thing.
That's why I don't watch trailers. Trailers give away the whole story.
No, not trailers, but
trailers
the ones that
do.
like someone's talking is like, oh,
trailers
this happens
do.
and this happens and this happens, this happens, and then I'm like, oh, that's the whole story. Great.
No, watch the season, guys.
yeah.
Till next time.
Peace.
Peace.